I'm going to welcome you to the Camden Black Workers Group Black History launch meeting. And I think it's obviously the case that we're now in quite challenging times. You'll all know that. So we're having our Black History event. Normally there'd be loads of us packed into the council chamber, making sure that we have a really eventful time. But obviously this time it's a little bit different. So we're here in LabTech in Camden, and we're doing an online event tonight. So with the challenges that we have, we're hoping that you're all joining us. We're hoping that you're all going to enjoy the events that we have this evening. But as usual, I'm Hugo Pierre, the chair of the Black Workers Group, and we normally have some other speakers to start off to launch our event for the evening. And the fact that it's been challenging times, obviously this year, as opposed to many other years, probably the first challenge we've had is the Black Lives Matter movement that rose up after the death, the murder of George Floyd in the States. And we saw that right across the world, young people really took up that challenge, braved the COVID pandemic, and made sure that they were able to come out on the streets and protest that murder. I think we'd also have to say that Camden Council have taken up that challenge as well, by, instead of just having a Black History Month, having a Black History Season, which is going to go on until December, meaning that we don't just mark it as something for now, but as something that has to continue. And so I think that's really important that we acknowledge that, and we're going to have the leader of the council and Councillor Hai, who's also the lead for equalities, come and speak in a minute. But we've also got to make sure that the challenges we face to make Black Lives Matter don't just stop with Black History Month, but continue. And we need to make sure that we're also fighting for the resources that we need to make sure that our communities are going to be not just safe from the pandemic, but also start to put an end to the racism and the discrimination that we face. And so, as usual, we're also going to have the Unison Branch Secretary for Camden, Liz Wheatley, who's going to come and speak to us about how important it is to make sure that we continue the fight and the struggle. Our first speaker is going to be Councillor Georgia Gould, and she's going to do a link-up. It's going to be some sort of online link-up that's going to take place, and she's going to say a few words for us. So over to Councillor Gould.
Thank you very much, and it's wonderful to be with you, Hugo, and everyone else virtually. It's very different from last year. I remember everyone dancing together in Camden Town Hall, and you know, it's been an incredibly tough year, I think, as you set out, and this event feels more important than ever. The work we're doing to mark Black History Month or Black History Season in Camden, because we've seen the depth of the inequality this pandemic has exposed, and we've seen the disproportionate impact it has had on Black Asian minority communities in Camden. And that's not by chance. It's because of the systematic inequalities in our society, in housing, in employment, that we've been working on, that the Camden Black Workers Group has been working on for years. But I think we are now having a powerful public conversation about this, and if anything comes out of this pandemic, it has to be change. It has to be a moment for genuine transformation and taking on the racism and inequalities. And I'm really pleased that the theme of this year is activism. As you said, Hugo, this year we've seen the Black Lives Matter movement and how powerful that has been. Today we've seen Marcus Rashford, a 22-year-old Black footballer, show more leadership than the Prime Minister in tackling poverty and inequality, and people from around the country stepping in to address food poverty. And in Camden, we have a proud history of Black leadership and Black activism, from Claudia Jones holding the first ever Notting Hill Carnival in Camden Town Hall, through to Vadni Bish, the pioneering social worker that we have a building in Camden named after, and our kind of modern heroes in the Camden Black Workers Group who do so much to hold the council to account, to push us to go further on Black representation, Hugo, yourself, Dolly, Jare, Judy, who is the absolute genius behind Black History season and the amazing event today, Vinifan, and Kieran, who's there today, I think, as well, and Carol, and so many more people, Janelle, who've come together to I think make this season such a powerful set of events. But I think, as Hugo said, it can't just be a season; it has to be embedded in everything we do. And I'm really pleased we're now working with Black Curriculum, the organisation, to ensure that we're really teaching Black history in our schools. And I know Abdul's going to speak after me, and I know he'll talk about the work we've done through building equal foundations, the appointment of our first ever director for equalities and disproportionality, and we as a council are absolutely committed to taking on race inequality and working alongside Camden Black Workers Group. So I'm really honoured and proud to be here tonight, and I'll be watching the event all evening. Thank you.
Well, thanks again, Georgia, for those words, and I hope you do enjoy the rest of the evening as it goes on. I'm now going to introduce Councillor Abdul Hai, who's the Councillor for Young People, Diversity, and I think it's Community Strategy, Communities, is it? Cohesion and Equalities, that's right. There would have to be one slip up, wouldn't there? So, without any further ado, I'm going to ask Councillor Hai, who is one of the people who is, from the Councillor's point of view, is leading on this particular work, as Councillor Gould just said.
Thank you, Hugo, and thank you so much to everyone for attending. We're in difficult and challenging times, so therefore we've got to maintain social distancing. But I also want to thank the Black Workers Group in Camden for their tremendous efforts and commitment. Without them, I don't think we'll be here this evening. I also want to thank the Unison Union for their leadership, working up for rights of workers and making sure that justice is served for everyone. But most importantly, this evening we're here to celebrate the Black History Month. To me, Black History Month is about identity, culture, food, sense of belonging, sense of who we are. You know, we've got to be living in a society that you're not judged by color of your skin or your culture. You're judged based on your merits, and that's really, really important. And Black History Month, to me, symbolizes equality and justice, as we saw in America, George Floyd's murder, as we see the Black Lives movements. The struggle for equality and justice remains as important as 50 years ago. And the question is for us in the 21st century, should we be even talking about those issues? The fact that there's been so many Equalities Act, there's so many legislations, yet again, we haven't seen the kind of progress that we want to see. However, in Camden, for us, equality and justice means what it is. We work very closely with the Black Workers Group. In Camden, we've got Inclusion Workforce program where we actively making sure that workers from Black communities, Asian ethnic backgrounds are given the chance to succeed, making sure that they're in senior management. So we've taken a more of a holistic approach by working and learning. And I think for us, it's a reflection. That reflection is to really happen. My plea to people that are watching from live stream is that it is no point for us being anti-racist. For me, we've got to go one step further. For me, it's about call to action. I would urge everyone, whatever you can do, if you see injustice, if you see racial discrimination, please do something, even putting up a small message on social media or joining a group or doing a program. We've got to go beyond that call of just being anti-racist. Some of you may be aware of, I led a work around looking at disproportionality in Camden. I wanted to understand why ethnic groups were dying in Camden as a result of COVID. You know, it was an intensive piece of work, 6 weeks, worked with health providers, to councillors, to young people, to voluntary and community groups who produced a report with 140 recommendations. That work's going to be taken forward, making sure that we create an equal society, a just society, that everyone has a chance to succeed and no one gets left behind. That is going to be our mantra going forward. We also have appointed first Director of Equalities and Disproportionality in Camden, nowhere in London that exists. Our trend and our work's been followed by other London boroughs. So, Camden has always been a borough of fighting equality and social justice. And for me, Black History Month isn't just about the month. It needs to fit in across our day-to-day work. It needs to fit in within our work environment. It needs to ensure that when children are going to our schools, they're learning about Black history, Black identity. And hopefully we have made a commitment with Camden Learning that we'll be ensuring that, as part of our curriculum, that will be embedded. So thank you so much. I'm sorry that we could not celebrate the event the way we wanted to do it because of COVID, but we're here during unprecedented circumstances. And not least but last, I want to say that big thank you to all our staff members who have worked extremely hard by making this event possible. I very much hope that moving forward, we can do more exciting things. So this year, we've got the Black season, so starting from October to December. Hopefully for next year, we want to do something bigger and better. But the key thing is, if we can work together, then we can create a better society and where everyone can work together, making sure that we live in harmony. But as I said earlier, if you see injustice, if you see inequality, I want every one of you in this room to stand up and challenge that. Without challenging it, that will continue to grow. And I want to make sure that our future generation don't have to deal with inequality and injustice. They can focus on fulfilling their true potential. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much for that, Abdul. And I think that it's really important that we look at the plans that the council have produced and that Councillor Hai has led on alongside Councillor Gould and some of the other councils there, because it is quite an ambitious programme. And we have to say, because we've had ambitious programmes before, we've got to hold that up and say, is it going to be something that is going to make the difference and make the change? And also, is it something that's going to be seen through? And our role in the Black Workers Group is going to be to make sure that we give that challenge to that programme, to make sure it's something that makes a fundamental difference to the lives of particularly young people, but all communities in Camden to move forward. And we know that in Camden, one of the groups that has played an absolutely key role in community cohesion in this borough have been the trade unions, and in particular Camden Unison, which have had a long and proud tradition of being anti-racist from the start. And that's absolutely important to make sure the workforce is cohesive in this particular borough. So I'm now going to introduce Liz Wheatley. How could I get that wrong after all these years? Liz Wheatley, the Camden Unison Branch Secretary, to say a few words as well. Liz.
I think sometimes a face covering can say 1,000 words, actually, which is why I've got one that says no justice, no peace, and I wear it as much as possible. I'm also going to try and perform the feat of using some notes and a microphone, so bear with me. But I want to start with a quote from Angela Davis, one of my heroes, because she once said that the idea of freedom is inspiring, but what does it mean? If you're free in a political sense but have no food, what's that? The freedom to starve? And I think quite rightly we celebrate Black history, but from coronavirus to the brutal murder of George Floyd this year, more than ever has seen a need for change. I'm sure all of us here know about how the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King have been a fundamental part of changing society. We all hold King's dream close. But actually, how many know that when he was assassinated, King was in Memphis to support striking workers, trade union members. They were sanitation workers. They were all black, they were low paid, and they were treated worse than the rubbish they cleared from the streets. You might have seen those pictures of people marching with signs saying, "I am a man." They were the sanitation workers, the trade unionists in Memphis. It's where King gave his speech saying he'd been to the mountaintop. It's where he marched with those strikers. And it was part of the Poor People's Campaign that he launched against poverty and injustice. And I think if we've learned nothing else this year, it's that we need a campaign against poverty and injustice. A year of the cleaner, a year of the care worker, the people who have literally kept us alive. But of course, a lot of those workers are black. A lot of them work for private companies, trying to make money out of public services. And we all know that when a service is privatised, the hours get longer, the pay gets lower, the workforce gets blacker. I'm really glad that Camden Council is trying seriously to make their leadership more diverse. But as a trade union, we want to know what's happening at the bottom. Why are low-paid workers disproportionately black? So I'd like to see a Black History Month pledge from our politicians, and I probably should have spoken first so that they had to answer it. And that pledge I want to see is to bring back private services back into public hands, to treat those workers as some of the most valued members of society with both the respect and a salary to match. Let's have a year of the cleaner. Let's have a year of the care worker that sees their lives improve. We don't want the freedom to starve that Angela Davis talked about. We want the freedom to fight, black and white together, for a world where people are put before profit. And that's why I'm a trade union branch secretary, why I'll always fight for Black Lives Matter, and why I say no justice, no peace. Thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Well, thanks very much for that, Liz. And I think what Liz has just said is really important. If Black lives really matter, then we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can for those frontline workers, for those workers providing meals for children in school, for those workers cleaning who've got extremely long rotas now, that we're making sure that they don't just have one meaningless job after another, but that they have a proper role in our society and they can put a meal on people's on the tables of their families. And I think that we've had, and I can't resist saying this because I'm a Man United supporter, so don't all cheer at once, but I'm a Man United supporter, and I'm extremely proud of the work and the role that Marcus Rashford has played in highlighting the plight of children who are going without meals during the holiday period. And I say this, if one person can lead a campaign like that and change the mind of the government, all right, not this time, but in the previous time, just imagine if we all got together and campaigned along similar lines, what resources we could get out of a government so that we really do make Black Lives Matter. Now, I'm going to hand over to Alim now, who has been our host for most of our Black History Month events and does an exceptional job. And tonight we've got a really good presentation, a really good platform that we want to share with you and make sure that it's a very good and enjoyable evening. I know, for example, Basil Gabbidon, I probably first saw him playing when I was a teenager and I was living in Handsworth at the time, and it was just around the time when his first album came out, Handsworth Revolution. It had a huge impact on me, and of course the likes of songs like Prodigal Son, etc., etc. They had a big impact on me at that particular moment in time. So I'm really pleased we've got the likes of him on our platform, as well as all the other esteemed guests. I don't want to put anyone else down. Just I thought I'd give a little personal plug to Basil because of the influence he had on my youth. So by all means, enjoy the evening, have a good time, but take away something from this, something I think the council said to us, and something that we want to make sure gets embedded, is that it's not a season, it's not a month, it's not a season. This is for life. This is a battle for life. Thanks very much, and over to Alim.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. See, I was waiting for the theme song, but there was no theme song. So guess what? I'm going to make up myself. We make Camden back to the future. Hey, we make Camden back to the future. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alim Kamara, your host for this evening. You are tuned in right now. I hope you've got your hot drink, you've got your popcorn, you've got your biscuit, and you are ready. Because tonight is going to be about inspiration. It's going to be about motivation. It's going to be a time for you to learn. It's going to be a time for you to grow and get some powerful, powerful, powerful ignition inside of you. So right now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my seat. I have a throne over there. Hey, I'm going to take my seat, and then I'm going to call my esteemed guests to come and join us. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're ready for these people that we've got here for you today, because I'm humbled to be in their presence, and I look forward to having conversations with them. So, we are coming. All right, first of all, please let me call here. Can I have Patrick Vernon? Apparently, he has an OB. I don't know what an OB is. And he's probably going to explain what an OB is. This gentleman here is a British social commentator. How are you doing, sir? Hey, greetings. Please. I look forward to you telling me what an OB is. And next up, we have a musical vet by the name of Basil Gabbidon. See, this is, we have to. Respect. And ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who were with us last year, this lady that is about to come on right now, she did not make me cry. There was a lot of dust in the room after she spoke, and that's why I was rubbing my eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, please, at home, in the studio right now, put your hands together for Dr. Angela Herbert, Chair of the Violent Crime Prevention Board. I hope you're clapping at home. I hope you're clapping. I have to bow. I have to. How are you doing? You're good?
Very good.
Beautiful. We have one more special guest coming up. Man looking sweet in his suit. Come on. Please put your hands together for Kieran Ferdinand, who is actually part of Camden Council. Hey, team. Come on. Good evening. How are you all doing?
Fine.
Very well. Good. So also, actually, over there in the corner, you have seen these people doing sign language. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Interpreters of Color Network, we have on the right-hand side, on my right, that is Grace over there. Grace, can you show us how to wave? How do we wave? How do we clap? Aha, beautiful. And then to her left, we have Deborah. Hey. Now, can I ask you quickly? How do you say, I don't want to say Happy Black History Month. Welcome to this year's Black History Month, Camden. I want to keep it simple. Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have our team here today who are going to inspire, ignite, inform. I'll say that again. They are going to inspire, ignite, and inform. I hope you're ready for what is about to happen. So first of all, I am going to ask you, Sir Patrick, can you tell me what is this?
Just Patrick.
Okay. Well, I saw the OB, so I was trying to work out what this OB is.
Okay.
So please.
Well, what it stands for, it's Order of the British Empire. How long have you got to talk about 400 years? Okay, fine.
Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I got that from my work in health, tackling health inequalities. But obviously, a lot of people have the whole debate around on the system, as we know. And I think it's about time we got rid of the empire bit and added the excellence bit. I mean, I accepted mine, I've had it for about 9 years, and to be quite, I accepted it for my parents. They were part of the Winners' generation. They came to Britain in the 1950s. They raised me and my 4 sisters, made lots of sacrifices, and I thought it was for them, not for me. And then it's a judgment call. Some people have said no, and I respect that. But I did it for my parents. It's on their mantelpiece. So when people say to me, "Are you going to return it back?" Talk to my parents. They've got it.
Okay, I understand that. So can you tell us a bit about your journey as a British commentator?
My journey, God. Well, I mean, as I said, my parents were part of the Winners' generation. They came from Jamaica in the 1950s. They came to Wolverhampton, and that's where I was born, in Wolverhampton. And they didn't realise that the local MP at the time was Enoch Powell. Do you know who Enoch Powell is? Have you heard of him? Good, yeah. Rivers of Blood, 1968. So there was that side of Wolverhampton where there was a lot of hostility, the colour bar, which my parents experienced, which was like discriminate, the usual stuff, no blacks, not dogs, not Irish, basically. And so there was discrimination in the workplace, discrimination in churches. Actually, the first black church to be established in Britain was the New Testament Church of God, and that was established in Wolverhampton in 1953. So people would, people had to create their own ways of surviving. And you know the African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. That was my childhood in many ways, because majority of people, Caribbean people that lived in Wolverhampton were mainly Jamaican. There were some Bajans as well, but they all came from 3 parishes: Hanover, St James, and Westmoreland, northern part of Jamaica, which meant that everyone was related or knew each other, and everyone looked out for each other in many ways. So in many ways, despite all the kind of this discrimination that was out there, the community was tight. It was really tight, and everyone looked out for each other. And in many ways, that's shaped me in terms of all the work I've done for many years, working in health and social care, being involved in campaigning, advocating for more Black history. It's having those kind of foundations of family, resilience, respect for the elders. These key basic things that's always been there for me.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Mr. Basil.
Yes, sir.
How are you doing?
Well, I wasn't quite sure what I was coming into tonight, actually. I wasn't quite sure what
You're
to
here,
do
you're
about.
here. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Tonight we're looking at the journey. They say life is all about the journey and not the destination. So would you mind sharing your journey with us? You have a beautiful journey.
Yeah, well, I was born in Jamaica in the 50s. Came to England when I was about 8 years old. Not knowing really what was going on. I hadn't planned to be a revolutionary, if you like. Anti-revolution, I wasn't planning that. I love music. I've always loved music. When I was in Jamaica, I don't know if you, where I lived, there on top of the hill, they had this sound system we used to blast every weekend. I didn't understand what it was about. I was about 5 years old, you know what I mean? So that must have had something to do with the music for me. I used to go to the jukebox and dance, so I think I had the music in me from all that time. Came to England, went to a school called Rookery Road School, a junior school. Played football, do all the sports stuff and all that type of thing. And then Bob Marley came along, as far as the music was concerned, with an album called Catch a Fire. And I thought they're taking reggae serious, so I'm going to get into this. Right. So that's how it kind of kicked off, really. That Bob Marley was the trigger, for my musical journey, if you like.
Where were you when Bob Marley?
Sorry?
Where were you at the time?
I was in Answorth.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in Birmingham, Answorth, which was a really nice, good community. Predominantly West Indians. Well, there was a predominantly West Indian population there. But after a while, they started to close the schools, the local schools. So the community kind of spread out a bit more, and so we lost the community. After we did our thing, after we did our Angela Revolution and all that type of stuff, after that, the community broke up. So it's not the same as it was then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And how is it now?
Well, you've got Polish people, you've got Asian people, you've got Sikhs, you've got Muslims, you've got, it's all mixed up now. It's not just a West Indian community, So you can't, for example, okay, we still have our takeaways, we still have our culture, There's a certain culture going on there right now. But what triggered us back in the day was a thing called the SOS law. I don't know if you know about that. It was tough time for the youths, really, because, you would get picked up off the streets on suspicion of something. These days now, they still got the SOS laws now, funnily enough, in certain parts of the world, especially in America, but it's more suspected of. Oh. Yeah, where before it was suspicion of, But anyway, that kind of got us really angry, because people was being picked up. Our bass player, Ronnie McQueen, was put in jail overnight, So that's how Answer Revolution came about. The lyrics were all that, and Ku Klux Klan, and you had the National Front and all that time. A lot of right-wing stuff was going on in them days. I'm talking about the the 70s now. We're talking about the 70s, mid-70s, going into the 80s.
Okay.
You know, so yeah.
So did you get into any rockers around them times then?
Any
rockers, blues?
There's loads of stuff, you know, loads of. I mean, our diversion in all this was the blues. You know, so you go to the blues at the weekend and check out some, you know, heavy sound system, you know, because you know about the wardrobe boxes and the bins or whatever they call it, you know. You know about that, yeah?
Yeah.
You know, so we used to just get lost in all that type of stuff, really. Or practice and rehearse, you know, and you know, there's so much I can say. I don't know where to start. Really.
And, you know, it's funny what you say about the music, because when we were young and we used to be dancing at parties, and we thought we were good. Well, at the time, we thought that adults were cheering us on, but adults can be wicked. They were laughing at us.
Well,
Michael Jackson style dancing. We thought we was good.
Serious. Well, yeah. Talking about that, actually, when we first played out with Steel Pulse, we used to play in these working men's club, and they used to say to us, "Come off the stage, man! Come off the stage! We can't play music," because we used to play roots and dub music and all that. Where they wanted to hear Dennis Brown and John Holt and all that type of stuff, you know what I mean? So I know where you're coming from, you know. You know.
Cool. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dr. Angela.
My dear.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Would you mind sharing with us your journey?
I'd like to share a poem, actually.
Oh, talk to me.
I actually wrote a poem this year on Black History Month.
Okay, please.
And I'm not a poet, but I read it for the first time I've read a poem in public, to the Duke and Duchess of Wessex. So I go a whole way or not at all. So I'm going to do that for you now. So it's called Black History Month Revisited. And no, I'm not going to be coming into your book of black famous people now after this. Thank you.
Here we go. Okay. That's cool.
So, and I have to say, thank you for inviting me back, because I'm reasonably controversial, a bit of a disruptor, but that's, you know, me.
Real.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Love it. Absolutely. Yeah. So here we are, Black History Month Revisited. Black does not have a place, a space, a location, a language, or a time. It's a color. His story relays accounts of an aborted past, shackled and dumbed down. His story limits the movement of my wide eagle-like limbs, preventing me from alighting, once aloft, soaring. So I've changed the narrative and delved beneath the sparse education and curriculum that reflects my ancestors, only in the guise of sardine-like figures packed in a vessel, and then a system that enslaved them and continues to try to enslave me. Headed to my Barbados. Traumatic. Pause. This Black History Month is a catalyst to research and tell the story for our family, friends, and future generations. So listen, if you will, to my story of black. B, beauty, inside and out. Just look at my ageless skin. They say black don't crack. It's true. L, love that defied the captors of my ancestors and the belief that they would hold and enact fatal grudges. A, aspirations that remove the boundary of fear, evidence in my huge achievements and accolades to date, despite the shackles of their numerous isms. C, civilization, culture, and communities, cradled in creation, Africa, my past, my present, and my future. K, kingdoms, kings, queens, and the story of my beginnings, not slavery, but languages, traditions, family, colors, cultures, vibrancy, beliefs, strengths, innovation, tenacity, faith, and grace. This is my life, not 1 month, not a month, a year, not a season till December, but daily. I have removed the mental shackles attributed to the color of my skin by using the tool of my difference as a strength. So come closer. Let's lift each other together. This is my story, our story, not his.
Ladies and gentlemen, the lady who says she is not a poet, but has written a poem that has touched our hearts, I dubbed you.
Thank you.
I'm going to come back to everybody and ask everybody to share a fond childhood memory. Keep that in your mind. I'm going to come back. Before I do that, my brother, Kieran, we were talking before. We were like how humbled we are to be in front of giants. So, brother, please share your journey with us as somebody who works with Camden as well.
Yeah, so I guess if I didn't know that I was amongst greatness before, I definitely feel it now after the non-poet has delivered that poem. Because I said the humility that I felt being with, sitting on a live panel with examples of black excellence is so significant for not just me as a young black man, but for any young black person. And for black people of any age, it is so humbling and made even more so. In terms of my journey, I guess thinking about Black History Month and my personal journey, I think that I always go back to when I started secondary school and October came and October nearly went without any mention of black. So I took my little legs and I marched to my head teacher's office. I was like, excuse me, how are we as a school marking Black History Month? And I left disappointed because the school had no plans. And so I went home, told my mum, and we made a notice board of examples of, key moments in black history, prominent black figures throughout history, to really archive and celebrate that black history. And that I took that to school and that got put up in our reception. And it was something that they then put up every year and we had to kind of add to it to kind of refresh it.
Wow.
But I guess looking back, I think when, being with people like Patrick. Can I call you Patrick? I feel like we're friends now, so I'm just going to call you Patrick.
We're friends.
I'll drop the title for now. And being with someone like a social commentator, and I've kind of reflected about, am I an actor? Could I call myself an activist? And actually, I look back to that time, and I think that was my first example of activism.
Absolutely.
And it is something that has stuck with me. And as I kind of went through my educational life, it then became something that I demanded of institutions that I was a part of, because I don't want to be a part of an institution that doesn't want to celebrate me, that doesn't want to celebrate my family, and doesn't want to celebrate my people more broadly. Right. So that became really, really important to me. And since I joined Camden Council, I've been really fortunate to be able to be part of, really groundbreaking work in some senses, looking at disproportionality that Black, Asian, and other ethnic people face, particularly in the context of the pandemic that we're in, where we've seen, where for some of us we've been reminded of how Black people suffer, and I think it's just a timely reminder for all of us that the pandemic we're not being affected by this because it likes Black people more than anybody else. We've been affected by it because we've been kind of consigned to structures that place us at the bottom, that place us on the outside, and we suffer because of it. So those are things that I want to actively speak out against, I want to rise up against. And so I guess from today, I'm going to embrace my activist nature and be vocal.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And on that note, I want to acknowledge a man by the name of Adai Sebo. Adai Sebo is actually the founder of Black History Month UK. So if you don't know about Adai Sebo, he's just been recognized. But Adai Sebo one day was having a conversation with a colleague friend, and she shared with him that she was putting her child to bed. And the child said, "Mummy, why can't I be white?" And that was one of the triggers for him to say, no, we really, really need to take action. So what you've just said there is part of that journey of us taking action. So I'm going to flip that now. And please, Patrick, if you could share one fun childhood memory.
Oh, God. One fun, there's so many. So, I mean, in my household, there's my dad, my mum, and I've got 4 sisters. So and I was the eldest, so I used to do silly things like pop their dolls' heads off and hide them, and get spiders, and put them in matchboxes and stuff like that. So anyway, there were lots of stories like that, but the story I'm going to share is, so I was into music as a teenager. There was a magazine, it was like Criminal Smash Hits, right. Like all lyrics of songs, etc. And I was into my music and stuff like that. And I entered this competition, and I won 6 albums. So this is like, I must have been about, how old was I? I must have been about 12, 13. This is like kind of the mid-70s. I won 6 albums from the Philadelphia sound. Billy Paul, 3 Degrees, The Intruders, the OJs, and the MFSB Orchestra.
Kieran,
one of the meanest.
Yeah.
And but the 3 Degrees album cover, that was their first album with their famous tracks like Dirty Old Man and When I'll See You Again. They were thinly clad, the singer, the 3 Degrees. Yeah. And I used to look at it, and then my sisters would say, Mummy, Patrick's looking at the album. And so they used to hide the album. I've got the album now back after all these years.
I remember going to our price, and we weren't allowed to buy rap albums.
Yeah.
So we would stand outside.
Actually, the worst albums were Ohio Players. If you see those albums, were a bit dodgy. Very dodgy now.
Which one?
Ohio Players.
Okay.
Do search on Google, you'll find out about
okay.
They did some good music, but the albums were really dodgy. Album covers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we used to stand outside and ask strangers to, no, you shouldn't do this, don't do this. Ask them to buy us rap albums, because rap for us at that time was our street journalists. Like that was how we got our news of what was happening around the world. And we used to hide them under the mattress as well. Because you get some licks, man. What is this? Mr. Basil, please.
My turn. It's my turn.
Yes, please.
Oh, gosh.
Fun childhood memory.
Right on. The problem I have with memories or childhood memories that in my head, I'm still a child. I don't know if I'm going to grow up yet.
Come on. Bars.
That's my problem. So I always tend to forget. But one thing though, because I was growing up in Jamaica, I was with my grandmother. So my memories tend to be about my parents, like the things I remember. One of the things was when I first came to England at the airport, I saw my father come, to pick us up. He had a bowler hat on, and which later on, I couldn't work it out why he had a bowler hat on, because in Jamaica you would never have a bowler hat. Okay. But one of the things about having a bowler hat, I guess, was to fit in to the, London airport, all that type of stuff, London, whatever, and all the. And the other memory I have was my
Sorry, why was that a fun memory? Sorry.
Because
no, everybody was thinking it. I was just the one, because I had the mic. I had to say it.
I mean, I've been growing up, still being a child. I can't see why you would wear a bowler hat. I can't imagine myself wearing a bowler hat. You know what I'm saying? But thinking about it, it must have been to fit in.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying? And the other memory is from my mum, which she, we used to go on trips as kids, and you know, she had a habit of Vaseline on my face in front of the coach, you know, with the kids on the coach, you know. So that was, I know, so that's something that's kind of stuck in my head, you know, because it's like, no. You know. So those are the kind of things.
That's
tend to be
beautiful.
about my parents, you know, more
That's
than,
beautiful.
yeah,
That's
you know.
beautiful.
Oh my God! You know, I've been really racking my brain trying to think of what.
Too many.
Well, no, because I was the only girl.
Okay.
And so I was between two brothers, and I mean, you know, the fun was not for them because I was the girl, you know, brown-eyed girl, and I was just thinking about it. They used to get beats just because I was. Girl.
So that's your fun memory that they were getting beats.
Well, the thing is, okay, there was one time. We were always told, do not open the door. Anyone, you know, do not open the door when we're out. This is parents
Right.
were left at home. Social services is there. Yeah, so we were left at home.
It's all coming out.
Right? So don't open the door. But I knew that I was getting some new bedroom furniture.
Hey.
I saw the van pull up. And I said to my brother, the van's here. Mum and Dad aren't here. The furniture, we need the furniture. We need the furniture. It's my bedroom furniture. We've been waiting for it, so you better open the door. He opened the door.
Hey.
As soon as my parents got home, Cleveland opened the door. He got beat. So
Wait,
I
you
got my
snitched on
furniture.
him?
Yeah, man. That's what I did. That's what I did. And I just, you know, who opened the door? Because they can smell fresh new furniture.
Yeah.
And I said, Cleveland did it. And he got the beating of his life. Not fun. I mean, I got my furniture.
So because they used to get you, you got them back.
Yeah, I was just like that, being a girl. I'm the only girl here too. You notice that?
Powerful one, powerful. And Kieran, talk to me. What was your childhood? Something fun.
Remember, you're still a child, so you better take it.
I was looking at that.
Mini.
Get drawn to. Well, I'm an only child, but I've got more cousins than I need, and they know that I say that with love. So I grew up predominantly around them, and there would quite often be, you know, a good 10 of us at my grandparents' house at any one time. And so my memories are based in that environment. And so I think I can think of things like, you know, it was just great when we used to get £1 from my granddad to go to the ice cream van. Or, you know, we used to like, you know, the bottom bits of the sofas, we used to throw them on the living room floor and jump around them. And like my granddad would sit on the base of the chair and just watch us jump around him, and like we'd jump over him and fun stuff like that. But I guess the most fond memory I have, so at my grandparents' house, my uncle had a bedroom. I've never seen my uncle in that bedroom. I've never seen him sleep in that bedroom, but that's his bedroom.
There was a room.
And it was the only room in the house that was locked, almost permanently. And it may have got opened, like my granddad might have opened it every now and then, or sometimes my uncle would come back and open his bedroom. And we used to be on our hands and knees as kids to peek and see what is in this room. And I tell you, it was like Aladdin's cave, because the amount of money, just like coins, loose coins, that he had in there, and we used to just go in and scoop them up and be like, this is for the ice cream man. This is for the corner shop. And we, literally on our hands and knees. And like, I don't know why when you're a child you think that you're invisible if you're on the floor, but we thought we were invisible and he couldn't see us taking his money. So definitely that is one of my fondest memories, I think.
Beautiful. Thank you all for sharing that. I'm sure you feel a lot more closer now knowing about these juniors and the junior spirits that are here right now. So the other day I was delivering a workshop to some teachers, and I said to them, on October the 31st, I will be going back to my Dracula coffin until I get called next year, October, because Black only comes out in October. So, which is leading to my next question. What does Black History or Black History Month mean to you? Who would like to take that first? Who would like to take that first? What does Black History or Black History Month mean to you?
Well, you mentioned Adesibo, who founded Black History Month in 1987, and I've met him over the years. He lives in Ghana now, and so I've been in regular contact with him and many people as well for the great work he did. And you're quite right, that story that you shared, that was the inspiration where a black child basically said, I want to be white. And it goes back to the creation of Black History Month. Well, you have to go far back to 1926, Councillor Woodson. He founded it in America. Right. It was called Negro History Week. And he wrote a book called The Miseducation of the Child. That book is a seminal book, really about essentially the brainwashing of black people to think that we have no history, we have no culture, we have no value, we're not really human. And he actually, that's why Negro History Week was created in 1926. And it was created at the height of Jim Crow, which was basically segregation in America. So it was about self-pride. It was about celebrating that we have a history, we contribute, etc. And so that's how it started in America in 1926. By the time you reached the Black Power movement and civil rights movement in the 1960s, it was renamed Black History Month because of Black Power, basically. And by the time you reached the 1980s, it was called African American History Month, basically. That's why it's still called that. And I think in terms of the UK context, even though ironically, black history is actually longer than Americans. Americans can start from basically Jamestown, the Mayflower. We can go far back as the Roman period. Septimus Severus, Black Roman Emperor. So so we've got, so that's why I think in the 1980s there was activist politicians. You had the likes of Linda Bellos, who was then leader of Lambeth Council. You had Bernie Grant, who was then leader of Harringay Council. You had a whole range of councillors, black and white and Asian, all lobbying to make sure that the creation of Black History Month. And also, it's also at the same time as Mark Scully's centenary of his birthday, and it's also at the same time with the kind of international campaign around the cancellation of third world debts, particularly in Africa, called the Jubilee Campaign. So all these things all merged together that led to the creation of Black History Month. And I think that's still relevant today. After 34 years, it's still relevant. So for me, Black History Month is about self-pride. It's not about, the recent debates in Parliament was quite interesting a few days ago, where, you had a lot of MPs saying we have to have Black History Month in the national curriculum. It's in there, but it's more about African American history, not enough about Black British history, not enough about the Windrush generation. And obviously the Equalities Minister basically said that we should not have critical race theory, which basically means if you don't have critical race theory, you don't have Black History Month, because it's about challenging and critiquing the history of empire and colonisation. So what does she want us to do? Talk about fufu and yams, watermelons? Is that real Black history? Is that Black history we want to teach our kids? I don't think so. So I think Black History Month is still relevant and important. And obviously, it's not simply about doing stuff in the month, and that's one of the criticisms of it. It should be throughout the whole year. And I do stuff throughout the whole year. And you don't have to be Dracula. You could be, let's think of another synonym for you. There could be be like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Oh, no, I was mocking him.
Well, really?
Yeah. I was giving an example for really and truly what happens and what we need to shift from.
And that's what happened. So, so I think Black History Month is very relevant and important. I've been doing talks for Black History Month for the last 15, 20 years, and it's getting, ironically, it's got more prominence over the last 3 years. With this year with Black Lives Matter, it's taking it to the next level, and we need to build on that. We really need to build on that to make sure that Black History Month is important. It's about celebrating all histories, and it's actually inspired other history months. So in 2006, LGBT History Month was established. You've got Gypsy Traveller History Month, you get Bengali History Month, and this year was the launch of Southeast Asian History Month. So it tells you that other histories have been excluded and not valued in the mainstream, and that's why Black History Month has actually inspired other histories. That's why it's still important. Okay.
And why is it that there's been such a focus on American history? Because I didn't know about, for example, Cheddar Man. For those of you who don't know, Cheddar Man, the bones of Cheddar Man were found in 1903 in somewhere up in Somerset, in Cheddar Gorge. and his bones are said to be 10,000 years old. And apparently Africans have been traveling to the UK from 40,000, 65,000 years ago. And I'm like, what? And he was a black man with blue eyes. And one of his descendants is still alive today, Adrian Taggart, who, when you look at him, he's a rights man. Why is it that we don't get taught these things? Or why didn't we get taught these things? Why is the focus so much on America?
Well, it's very simple because, well, for two main reasons. As I told you, the history of black history, of how it evolved in America, has meant that in America you have university courses, you have professors, you have institutions, and it's all part of that wider American hegemony of culture. So you talk about rap music. I mean, we had Black British music still, the power of American culture, and particularly African American culture, is pervasive. It's powerful and it's fantastic. It's influenced stuff, and at the same time, we don't really value our contribution in the UK. Why is it that all the leading black actors are Black British, but they have to go to America, put an American accent to get a gig, to get a job? Why can't they have roles like Harold Moody played a key role in Britain in the 1930s? There should be a major documentary about him. Why couldn't they have the likes of Claudia Jones? We've got our own equivalents of Paul Stevenson, Bristol Boycott. There should be a major movie about him. But unfortunately, we learn about Rosa Parks, civil rights movement, and there's nothing wrong in that. But we need to learn about, it's about more, I think now there's a bigger campaign around that, and that's one of the reasons why I did my campaign 17 years ago called 100 Black Britons, and that's why I've got the book out with my colleague, Dr. Lynn. Plug. Well, I'm here, man. Come on. Plug. But it's all about Black British history. I mean, you've got David Osugo. There's a whole range of people on that out there saying, we've got our history, let's talk about it.
Right. Beautiful. Thank you very much. My brother, Kieran, what does Black History Month, Black History mean to you? You've given us your example of what you did when you were young. What does it mean to you right now as a young man?
So, firstly, I completely agree that, the activities and the things that we do in Black History Month need to go beyond October. But I think what the concept of Black History Month means to me is it creates the opportunity to reveal the truth and speak the truth. So what I mean by that is when we think about history, the history of black people that we learn in school, we do look to America from a certain time period. We do just learn about slavery and the slave trade. Right. And to be honest, I'm just kind of sick of that rhetoric because, why do we have to continually learn about violence and persecution? Because you are teaching young black people that, this is your background. Your background is inherently violent and you will be inherently persecuted. When actually, what we need to kind of do more of, and what this month allows us to do, is to look back beyond slavery, so pre-slavery. Let's go to pre-slavery and really educate ourselves on what black history is. So I always think of the ancient Egyptians. Now, when you're at school and you learn about the ancient Egyptians, I remember when I was in primary school and I had to make, I used like a plastic bottle to create a sphinx type thing. And that was great. It looked nice. My mum kept it. But what I didn't learn is that ancient Egyptians were black. When I watched about movies about ancient Egypt, I saw people that were more Arabic looking, and that's, we know why. We can trace that movement, the Arabic movement, into Egypt. So we know why Egyptians transitioned to look as modern day Egyptians do. But ancient Egyptians were black. If you go to Egypt now, you go to Cairo, you go to a museum, they will tell you a million things that ancient Egyptians did, their achievements. What they could never handle, the Egyptians, was their hair. So if you need another kind of symbol to show you that they were black, these people made headdresses because they didn't know how to manage their hair. You don't learn about that. You don't learn that the biggest mystery, one of the biggest mysteries in the world, the creation of the pyramids, was as a result of black ingenuity. You don't learn that. And so I think that's really what the month is for is to go beyond the shackles, go beyond being shipped around the world, and go beyond being flogged on market stalls, to actually learning about the kingdoms that Angela, again, I'm dropping the titles because we're friends, reference in her poem, is to learn about the kingdoms and to learn about Black excellence. And when we do that, we then, when we think about the theme for this year, Back to the Future, that history allows us to think about what our future as Black people will look like. And I say will look like, not should look like, because I don't want to keep talking hypothetically, and I feel like we kind of do that quite a bit. It's what it will look like. But we can't imagine greatness if we confine ourselves to a slave ship. We can't. So that's what it means for me.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much. And what is it they say? Enslavement isn't Black history. Enslavement merely interrupted Black and African history. That's all it did. It just interrupted it. So I'm going to move over now. Now, I need to, Dr. Angela, sorry, I haven't dropped the title yet. I'll get Dr. Angela, you are the chair of the Violent Crime Prevention Board. The chair. But I'm sure you had to climb some ladders. Oh. Hey, I need to know what some of the things that you faced, so that young people who are watching know the reality of some of the things and challenges that they might face, but you made it to where you are right now.
Okay. So being the chair of the Violent Crime Prevention Board, it was really as a result of many things that I've done throughout my life, Come on. And so I celebrated my 60th birthday this year.
Happy birthday!
Yeah, 60, April, yes. No, I'm not 21. I am 60. I'm proud, yeah. 60 is the new 60.
All right,
okay. And so I've had a journey. 24 years old, I became a born-again Christian, and I wanted to be like Jesus, disrupt her and do things a little bit different, not just sit down in a church, all right if you do. And I started to volunteer in prison. So I started to volunteer at Feltham Young Offenders.
One second. Did you hear that? Volunteer. That means work and get experience. No money sometimes. Please proceed.
Yes. So I did that for 12 years. I didn't plan to do that for 12 years. I remember my dad said the first time I was going to go, because I went every third Sunday of the month, I would spend the day there. And my dad begged me not to go. Wow. He said, when these people were knocking over little old ladies, they didn't know they wanted you to come and talk to them. But I did. The majority of young people, well, the people that I'm engaged with, many look like myself. 26% of the prison population are Black. I'm using the term Black, Asian, minority, yeah, predominantly people from my community. Okay. And so I never wanted to leave because there was always something I wanted to say. So I'm someone that releases one's mind. If you're encapsulated, you're encaged, then you have to release your mind. There is only so much that someone can hold you, and it's not forever. And so that's what I did. I became redundant in my day job, and I started to do teacher training. I wanted to do it at Feltham, but my tutors were afraid to come there. So I started to work at Wormwood Scrubs Prison, where I volunteered there and did my teacher training there. I worked my way up then into paid work, and I became a governor grade at Wormwood Scrubs Prison, got the inspection round to good in Wormwood Scrubs Prison. As looking like this, believe me, regularly there would be complaints about me, because if I gave an instruction, people would have to ask the questions, not ask my white counterparts. So I had to put up with all of that, but I did it. I'd cry sometimes, not there. I was like hard, did what I had to do, and worked my way through. In 2004, I was moved to headquarters, Ministry of Justice, and the same kind of work that I was doing in one prison, I then did across 131 prisons to embed learning and skills for prisoners. You're not there forever. You've got to move on. I delivered teacher training to prisoners, and then I set them to teach. I just did things. I'm a disruptor, so I looked different, but I didn't hide. I couldn't say, oh, it was Sally or Jane, because it looked like me. It was me. And so I do things differently. I've consistently, continued to work voluntary alongside my paid work. I chair a Brent Police Independent Advisory Group, and I was asked if I would be vice chair of the Violent Crime Prevention Board. Neville Lawrence, Stephen's father, was the chair at the time. So he was the face, and I was doing all the grunt work. I was doing the work, setting up the policies, etc. But the purpose of the Violent Crime Prevention Board, and we came together in 2017, but didn't launch until September 2018, much to the disappointment of some people, because you need to get out there in the paper, and it's just not about that. Right. It was about looking at what services are out there, how we can map them, then how we can network. So if I know that you do something, I'll link you up with you. And so it's not about trying to get anything, but what we can give so that we lift each other. And then the other was influence. And so I ran youth groups, etc. And 100% of my young people did well. But as I threatened to beat them. That was one of the things I said, I'll beat you. I will beat you.
Be a technique.
Yeah, but they were brilliant. So I've got doctors, I've got heads of year, etc. 27 years old, 28. They're young people still. And so now, as a 60-year-old, I don't need to be on the ground. I need people to be doing that. Right. I need to open doors. So the influence is that I now sit with staff at New Scotland Yard, for example, and I'm able to disrupt and challenge. I speak to people in senior positions, and when they ask me, how are you paid? I'm not paid, so I can say what I like. I'm not on your payroll. I'm not on your payroll, which is why I didn't think I was going to be invited back this year, because I said, why am I coming here every year? You say you're going to do it. What have you done? I don't want to hear I'm going to. When Victoria Clumbier was killed, councils had to put some things into place real quick, 6 weeks, turn things around. Why is it takes so long to turn things around for people that look like me? It makes no sense. And so I think sometimes people don't understand what they need to do. And so I'm all open to help. And there are lots of people that want to do things, but they don't know how to make that change. And so it's about really being radical and saying, I care about people, and then doing it. We shouldn't have to be fighting. It's not a fight. It's a life. It's our lives. Black History Month should be a catalyst for us to move forward. Don't stop. Keep going. Don't say, I want to. Just do it. Just do it. I did that as a woman of African heritage in an environment which is hierarchical, don't look like me, and I did it. To make way for others, make way for young people, to open the door, because I'm not going to be here forever. I'm not going to be here, sort of like propping up the world, but I need to create a legacy for my children, my grandchildren, and they shouldn't be having this conversation, and that's why I'm doing what I do. And I volunteer. Violent Crime Prevention Board is about before they get into the system, prevent it. If you're doing things, let's come together and stop young people that feel they have no hope because they're told you can't do this, you can't do that, and there is no space for you because of your color. You need to stop that. That's what I'd say. Join me on the Violent Crime Prevention Board, volunteering. Let's make a change. Yes.
Make a change. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Basil.
Yes, sir.
The importance of having a mentor, a role model, or being a mentor or role model, which one of those have been most impactful for you? Is there somebody that inspired you, that looked like you, and how you passing on the baton, if you don't mind me asking?
Going back to what you're talking about with what the Black History month. What worries me a little bit is, are the youngsters being engaged enough into Black history? Because it tends to, when I go to a lot of Black history events, they tend to be the converted people who are there. Right. And I'm worried about how we get the youngsters engaged more. You know, the British youngsters I'm talking about now.
Right.
Because the British youngsters, to me, are a little bit confused in I don't know what you think, but you know, it's not, I know I was born in Jamaica and I grew up with a lot of Black people around me. Yeah, so I know where I come from.
Right.
I think in Britain you know, you're Black, but you're not really accepted in school. So you feel a little bit marginalized, and it's like, so you know, you try to either do something useful, or you end up going into crime or something to prove yourself. You know what I'm saying? So that's what really concerns me about Black History Month. You know, it's are we engaging the youngsters enough? You know, and is it just for the month so that it's commercialized, or is it to emphasize? You know, that's what I want to find out about. That's because I don't fully understand what Black is. I mean, I've learned a lot, but I don't fully understand because it's not broad enough. It's not engaging enough. Yeah. So what was the other questions?
No, thank you. That was needed. That was needed. Just know what you said is really important. And just to say to the people at home, send us your questions, send us your comments in the chat. Let us know your thoughts. What do you think we can do more within our community to engage more young people? What questions also would you like to ask the people on the panel that we have today? So please make sure that you're sending in questions as we're going along. Okay, so yes, so the question that I had to you was about the importance of mentorship. So it actually leads on from what you said.
Yeah.
Was there somebody or several people that you looked up to that inspired you to stick with the idea of learning an instrument, for example, and the discipline?
Absolutely. There was a music teacher called, I went to a school called Hansworth Wood in Birmingham. And there was a music teacher there called Mr. Surtees. I never forget his name. Because he used to care. You know, some teachers like, this man used to care. He's not, you know, he had the curriculum, which was classical music at the time. And he used to just go like, come on, let's put some Beatles on. So he used to put Beatles on, pop music. Well, music that had something that we could relate to. So that was very important to me, because now I work with children, and I try to give them the same kind of care.
Got you.
You know what I mean? So basically, it's about passing it on, and which is a very crucial thing that I think all of us need to do. We're all responsible for the ones coming after us. You know, once you've learned something which is, you know, useful to you, and you've made some, even if you have money, it's important that we pass it back on.
Right.
Else we continually go around in circles, always restarting, you know what I mean? And which is another thing which really annoys me, because, you know, we've been here long enough to be able to get a footing, you know, without begging.
Right.
Because I get the feeling sometimes that we're like, you know, we got a bowl there asking for help, and we can do it ourselves, and we can fight a bit harder, you know, and by passing it on, what we've learned as adults, you know.
It's interesting that you say that in terms of what we've learned, because I think we also have to salute the young people right now, because as we see in Nigeria, young people are standing up and saying, we've had enough. And thanks to social media, we're able to find out firsthand what is happening to the people on the streets, the people who are on the ground, who are sharing the news. So I think that there is definitely, I feel like there was a point where we got comfortable.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, there was this, I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, because we thought we were civilized.
Second?
We thought we were civilized.
We thought we were civilized.
Yeah, so, you know, when you think you're civilized, it's like chill time, you know, but there's more work to be done.
There's more work to be done. And yeah, perfect, there's more work to be done. And the point I was making was that this man who running America right now, I said to people I was happy that he came into power because he shifted people from a comfort zone.
Yeah.
He let people know, don't get comfortable. Because when he came up, all of a sudden, those who agree with him came out of the surface. And then people were shocked. Like, what is this? What's happening? Is this what America is like? What are you talking about? They were just waiting for somebody to lead the way. And so I feel like right now there is a shift taking place. But like you said, there is definitely more work to be done. So thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. Okay, my next question. When you started out your career, what were the barriers that you faced then compared to the barriers that you face now? And going on from your OB.
Yes, fine. Okay.
Looking at your OB, like, did you have to have conversations with people to decide to accept it, or were you just like, I am taking it, they have given it to me?
That's a good one, that's a good one. That's a good one. So in terms of your question, so my career, I've mainly worked in health and social care for many years. I mean, I actually went to university and studied law. I did a law degree, actually got 2 law degrees, and I did my kind of qualification to be a solicitor. But I was actually interested in working in management. Right. So I worked in some regeneration projects. I was a manager of Citizen Advice Bureau. Then I worked for Mind, the mental health charity, as a regional director. And then I got a very senior job working for the NHS as a senior director. Then I worked for the civil service as a Department of Health. And then I've got into politics. I got elected as a councillor in Hackney for about 8 years, and I still work in the voluntary sector. So in all the experiences I've had working in the voluntary sector, NHS, civil service, and I've sat on boards and stuff like that. For me, one of the biggest issues is being a black male. Okay. Because unfortunately, the way society is constructed, black men are put in boxes. So and the usual stereotypes. So if you're in these environments and you're like often you may be the only black voice in those environments, people don't know how to deal with you. They don't know how to figure it out. They're not quite sure how to communicate with you. They're not, and so that's an issue. So what happens is, what do you do in that situation? There's 3 or 4 scenarios. You either play the game, you say yes and no so massa, all that kind of stuff. I wasn't going to do that. It's not my DNA.
Thank you.
Or you become the opposite and you challenge. And what happens? Then you leave. Then you become a problem, and they boot you out of the organisation, the body bag. So part of the challenge is navigating. And I've got this theory, like it's 3 counts and you're out. So if you have to reach up to about 2.5 before you move on. Because that's the way the system works. Because of white privilege, white supremacy, it's difficult to fit in those boxes. And if you do fit in those boxes, there's a consequence. I know so many people who are very successful in their careers, but it has an impact on their mental health, on their physical health, on their family life, because you're making these kind of sacrifices. Often you have to leave your black identity outside the door of the office. So for me, I realised that when some years ago, I wasn't going to do that. And I realised there's a balancing act. How far you want to progress your career. If you want to progress your career all the way up, then there's a compromise. And all of us, it's a judgment call for all of us, how far you want to compromise yourself, your personality, your identity for the day job. Right, you know what I mean? Right. So that's why I've always focused on being involved in activism and campaigning. And it's in a funny way, it's kind of worked out because I'm still working in senior management, but people know when you employ me and you do your searches on the internet and you search what I'm up to, you know what you want. There's a package there. Okay. It comes with a deal. Okay. So I think that's one of the key challenges of being a black male in a world where where we're still not valued and still not respected. And you still have to work twice as hard and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
And going back to the OBE's question.
Yes.
Okay, scenario. So you receive an envelope,
Yeah.
it comes to the post. You look at the back of the envelope, it's got ER on there.
Yes.
It's not Wonga, it's not Bill, it says ER.
ER.
Yeah, you open it up and you know it's from the Queen.
Okay.
Yeah, you open the envelope and there's a little citation and there's a little card and it says, yeah, and you say yes or no. And you have to reply it back in a couple of weeks. Say yes or no. So some people say no and they go to the media, that's fine.
Okay.
And some people say yes and whatever it is, that's fine too. So when you get that card for the letterbox and you open it.
Are you speaking it into existence?
That's what happens. So you're fine. I'm coaching you. I'm telling you when you get the card. When you get the card, we get the envelope. Yeah. So you receive it, you can open it, you can decide there.
Yeah.
The OB.
So then what happened?
What happened?
Did you have beef with people?
Beef, as in,
was it a difficult decision, or
no, I thought about it for about a week or so, and I realised it's not about me. It's about my family.
What were the thoughts?
The thoughts.
Yeah, it's all right. You've received it now. You don't get to No, but what were? Because you said it took you about a week.
Yeah, I thought about it. Spoke to my partner at the time and said, and I said, yeah, I'll accept it. And it's a judgment call. It's individual judgment call,
right.
And it's up to, and people will decide based on their own views, perspectives, etc. And so I accepted it. And even people I know who, because I see myself as a kind of activist, a left-wing activist, and some people on the left have never accepted that, but. You know what? I decided if I'm going to accept this, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use it as a tool for activism,
right.
And that's what I've done. I've actually used it, and it does. Sometimes it works.
Yeah.
In that. So when I'm doing petitions, and I do lots of petitions, by the way, and campaigns, I'll use it. Some people use it to let people know I've made it, and bow to me and that kind of stuff. I use it as a way of articulating a campaign, right. Etc. So I think you talked about Marcus Rashford, Hugo talked about him. Okay, he's being honoured, but I'm sure he's going to use it for the next level, when he raises the campaign around food, and he might go into care homes and say, let's have better food in care homes,
Cool. And I think that's why I was pressing on, asking you almost from a mentor perspective, for when that day comes and that envelope comes, what would you advise us as, say, for example, a mentor? And like you said, it is individual decisions and choices, but it's knowing what is the impact of
This reminds me. So Eddie Nesta, a good friend of mine, Eddie Nesta, he made this kind of documentary about should I accept my MBE, yes or no. So he's interviewing Benjamin Zephaniah, all kinds of people say, not quite, yes, no, not quite sure. And I said, Eddie, cut to the chase. Why make this program? You know you're going to accept it anyway. Interview all these people, objecting, and then think about it. I'm not sure. Eddie, please, talk to me.
Take the thing. Okay. It's interesting, because I guess, some people feel as if it's by taking it, it's a betrayal. But like you said, you're taking it and you're putting it to use back into the community, so which is really powerful. Thank you. So right now, what I want to do, I want to share a story before I go into my next question. So how this works is this: I come from a long line of jellies, griot storytellers, who are known for traveling and sharing.
Surprise me.
Who are known for traveling and sharing stories. And when I was growing up back home in Sierra Leone, the storyteller would arrive, and the storyteller would say, story. And that was their way of saying, do you want to hear a story, or do you want to hear a story? That was the choice. Choice one or choice two. And of course, you went story. So when I say story, I need you all to say story. Story. Yeah, well, there was once a snake. And this snake was in the field. And this snake used to bite people. All the time, just biting people, until one day, a storyteller showed up
that could speak the language of snakes. And so this made the snake curious. He said, let me hear what this storyteller had to say. And so as they got into conversation, the storyteller managed to convince the snake to not bite people anymore. And so the snake now agreed. And all the time the snake would just say, peace, peace. And off the storyteller went about, because storytellers have to travel, you know, and go and share with more other beings, other creatures. And whilst this snake was left there, the people still in the beginning weren't going near the snake because they weren't sure. But then soon they began to realize that they could go near the snake and the snake couldn't do nothing. And then as time went on, they started to poke the snake and saw that the snake couldn't do anything. The snake would just say, peace, peace, peace. And then it got to the point where they started to pick the snake up and fling it all over the place, and the snake would be going through this troubling time. Well, some time passed, and the storyteller returned. And the snake saw the storyteller and said, storyteller, this life of beef is hard. I've been listening to you, I haven't beaten anybody, but the way they are treating me. And the storyteller said, foolish snake. He said, I told you not to bite, and that was good advice. But I didn't say you couldn't hiss. Story, story. So, I ask you this question. What is your hiss? In this time, right now, that we are facing, when we are going to have some challenging conversations that are needed to be had, when we are going to have to step out of our comfort zones more than maybe even ever before. What is your hiss? My brother, Kieran.
Well, I wish you hadn't come to me first on this one. I think my hiss. Ooh, this is a tough one. I think, you know, whatever your hiss is, I think it's actually important that your hiss is loud and that it's powerful, and that even within this time, within this context, that it is reasoned. And I say that because I think it's been, you know, so easily kind of said that black people lack reason. And I mean, even if we think about that intellectually, when you go back to, you know, the beginning of the Enlightenment period, you know, philosophers that we're supposed to hold in high regard said that black people couldn't feel anything other than above trifling. We had no feelings. We were the antithesis of reason. So I think whatever the hiss is, whatever my hiss is, I want it to go against that and to remain reasoned, and really find the power to resist the urge not to bite, because I do think that that's important. You know, actually, I do also just want to pick up on the OBE point quickly. Maybe I'm talking myself into an OBE. At the very least, I hope I'm about to become the 101 Great Black Britain in my friend Patrick's book. But I think, you know, and it links also to what Basil said about young people at the moment and being engaged. To some extent, I think that, you know, taking an OBE now and thinking of it as a young person, I think it's more important. It's important now more than ever to accept those types of titles. Right. As an act of protest, as a reasoned act of protest. Because when the empire was created, those that created the empire, seeing people like Patrick have an OBE is their worst nightmare. Who would they have ever dreamt that a black man would walk into Buckingham Palace and receive such an honor? Or a black woman go and receive such an honor? No, they wouldn't. So that to me is an act of reasoned protest. And So yeah, I think it's important to really take those opportunities to be in a space that we belong. In many cases, black people deserve those honours more than anyone because it has the word empire in it. And if you want to say that we are children of the empire, then yes, thank you very much. I will take what is mine. I belong in this space just like anybody else. So I think in that kind of show of resistance, it's really crucial.
On the button there, yes.
Man, you have just flipped this thing. What? That explanation.
No, that's powerful. That's powerful. That is powerful. Someone just said, I think it's incredibly important to be accepting a medal. You are making a statement that is much more powerful than the medal. So you just inspired somebody else. So,
you know, it's to be who we are, isn't it? As opposed to who people want us to be. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, really love that.
So on that note,
no, carry on.
We're in flow. Remember to send your questions if you've got any questions or any statements, because we are wrapping up in about 5 minutes. Yeah. See how time just flies? So yes, what is your hiss, sir?
That's a tricky one again. It's there's so many things I would like to see happen. Like, something I'd like to do. It's, like I said before, my main concern is those that follow.
Right.
And how to be part of them, how they can be part of us. And I have no answers for that because there are too many questions and answers, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
I understand what I'm trying to say. It's because it's been going on and, so it's like, I don't know where to start, and I'm not rich enough to do it, to make that kind of a change, So I guess being a billionaire would probably help.
Straight to the point. Give me that money. I could make some.
To do something with.
I was watching LeBron's I Promise documentary. Very powerful because he's built a school in America, and he's actually got some series and episodes out where they've got children who are having difficulty in their community, who are not in school, but building a school for them and taking them in and seeing them their changes and just having that belief in them. And like what you're saying, that. But you already work with young children.
I work with children.
Beautiful. So there you are. That's your hiss right there.
Yes, it's very important.
Beautiful.
Patrick, talk to me as a commentator, as an activist. What is your hiss?
It's an interesting question, that, because I think my hiss has developed over the years.
Okay.
And actually, I've probably got several hiss. I've got more than one.
Talk to me, brother.
In the sense that when you're campaigning, and there's different types of campaign. You can campaign in the boardroom, and Angela knows that, all the work that she's done. And there's campaigning in the street, stuff I've worked with Hugo on stuff around the Windrush stuff. And so the hiss is on what you want. What's the impact? What do you want to achieve with your hiss? Some people I know have used their hiss in a very negative way against the community. So there's one thing of having a hiss. How you use the hiss, which is about privilege. It's about black privilege.
Right.
So how do you use your privilege in your hiss? And that was one of the criteria that we used in the book 100 Great Black Britons, because there's lots of people making a difference in the community, and there's some of us here making a difference, and some people have put themselves over and beyond in terms of using their hiss to make a difference, not simply in their professional career, but they've actually taken it to the next level and overcome personal barriers, obstacles, but still using their hiss.
Right.
Basically.
Right.
So I think that's the question. That's the question that we need to ask ourselves: how are we using our hiss, and is our hiss authentic, credible, and going to add value to the community and society as a whole? That's the question now. It's not about hissing.
Okay.
It's how you use it.
How you use your hiss.
Yeah.
Powerful. Dr. Angela.
And last but not least, this is my hiss. This is my hiss right here.
Come on.
So if you've got one of these, if you've got an arm, and if you don't have an arm, it's cool, you can use something else. But this here is my hiss. Okay. It's my equilibrium. It's my center. And it's a gift that I give to people, to just be centered. So it doesn't matter whether you have money or not. You just need to be centered. So in our lives, we have great times. That's when you're in the attic. And when things happen, we tend to move up. So then when things go wrong, we crash. We have things that go wrong, we go down. But we need to be centered, because nothing stays the same forever. Right. Situations are subject to change, including the COVID thing. Everything is subject to change. So you have to remain centered. And so my hiss then is to leave something for everyone that they can take away and use in a practical sense. Your center. You don't have to be great, you just have to have a pulse. Yes? And be centered. Because everyone has a purpose. Every single person has a purpose. It's not the same. They're all different, and we do that to the best of our ability and stay centered. Fafbaf, find a friend. If you need support, find a friend. If you need support with children, find a friend. And Baf, be a friend. So if you see someone that needs help, you do that. And that's it. That's my hiss. Yes. And it's about giving of yourself. And then you'll find that people give back. And that's what we need to do as a community. We're not all going to be rich. We're not all going to be poor. We're not all going to be hungry. But we can help each other because of where we're at and keep our centered.
Is that a, you know, the pulse? Is it the steel pulse?
Buff. Steel pulse.
I thought, sorry.
So let's just get a Faf Bath, find a friend, and Faf.
Is find a friend.
Find a friend, or
and be a friend.
Yes.
So when I need help from you and you help me,
right.
I don't go on like I've done it. I look around to see if anyone else needs support. So we help each other.
That's money, isn't it?
It's everything.
Yeah, it's like...
Yeah, don't be beggy, find your own job.
It works in the same way as money, because, you know, you're exchanging.
Not money. We don't really roll with money. Anyway, you know what I mean.
So just to clarify more on what you're saying in terms of the centers. So the center doesn't mean be callous.
No.
So just for clarification.
Center is not being moved by everything, because situations happen. We're all right now. Right. People are sitting and counting how many people. How does COVID know that the 7th person came in the room? But yet people are like all confused. How does COVID know that it is 1 minute past 10, you have to come out of the pub? Do you know what I mean? And so people are kind of losing their minds and stuff. I'm saying keep centered. Be very conscious of who you are and what you bring. The COVID thing, people say, oh, you look very well. Of course I look well. I get up in the morning, I shower and I work and I do what I have to do. I'm around my family. I have not stopped seeing my family, Boris. I ain't going to stop seeing my family, Boris. And if it is my time to go, sayonara, bye everyone. But I will live full and I will die empty. I'm not going to take my gift to a grave because I'm afraid of what someone says. That's my center. That's my center. My faith, my family, my friends, my children, my center.
Faf. Find a friend and be a friend.
Yes.
So is that Fafabaf?
Faf? No, it is Fafbaf.
It's Fafbaf?
Yes.
But then there's an and.
You don't need to complicate things.
Sorry. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are now drawing to a close. We've only got a few minutes left. So, what I'm going to do right now is ask for all of you to share, to I will jump in and do a story or something, and give you a moment to think about what would you want your final words to be as you look into that camera. There is somebody out there that is listening in, tuned in, and needs to be centered. What message can we send to that individual that they can then ripple out to the community or their family, or even maybe even just themselves? So what I will do right now, I will jump up
think of a quick story in my head, because as a storyteller, they say you must have a library of stories. So I'm going to, as I'm walking right now, I'm thinking of a story. So give me a moment to think of the story. I'm just going to sort myself out. So be thinking of what it is you're going to share. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Alim Kamara. I have been your host for this evening. I want to thank you all. But don't go yet. We just have a couple of minutes and we're going to get some final words. Is that all right? So quickly, what I'm going to do is share a quick story. When I say story, you say story. Story. Hey, where there was once a snail. And this snail took 7 whole years just to cross the road. And when the snail got to the other side, a huge, massive tree landed and boom, just missed the snail. Well, the snail turned around, that took the snail just to turn around. It took him about 2 weeks. Just to turn around, looked at the tree and said, phew, it sure is good to be fast. That's the end of the story. Now, I love sharing that story with children in schools, because I get to ask them this question. Was the snail slow or was the snail fast? I'll leave you to work that out. What I'm going to do right now is jump back on my seat and get some final words from our panelists right now. So, I'm going to ask Patrick, please, to the camera. What are your final words of the evening?
My final words of the evening. Just have an open mind. We're going through a difficult time in Britain, and sometimes you have to, it's similar to what Angela said, be yourself and let the universe bring what gifts and rewards. We have to work together, and people are working hard in communities up and down the country to help people, and it's time to give in, because if you give, you definitely will receive.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Basil.
Be centered. I'm serious. I love that. No, I love that, man. That's serious. Be centered and be confident in yourself. It's not easy in certain environments, but keep at it. Yeah. Don't give in. Don't give in.
Well, of course, I'm going to say, just be centered, be focused, but be kind to each other as well. Be really kind and be loving, because guess what? Today is the most important day of your life, because this is your future today. We can't guarantee tomorrow, so make the most of today is what I would say. And just love each other. Love is just beautiful. And life is beautiful while you have it.
Come on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kieran.
Firstly, I paid attention to your story, so I didn't spend much time thinking. I just want to make that clear. I was good at school. I listened to the teacher. No, I think leading on from what Angela said is that it's so important that we do love one another, and we see each other as black people as brothers and sisters. We are all part of a wider family, and we need to look to each other more and celebrate each other more, and let's not continue to look for role models in places where we don't exist, because where we do exist is within our family, within our black family. So let's lift each other up, celebrate one another, and despite everything that's going on, and I know we are all suffering from this kind of chronic fatigue, don't give up, because now is the time. Now is the time, and we will build that future that we should have always had.
Thank you very much. And on that note, I was reading a book, and one of the words that stuck with me was, where are you? Here. What time is it? Now. What are you this moment?
All right.
I'll say that again. Where are you? Here. What time is it? Now. What are you this moment? Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Black History Month Back to the Future, organized by Camden Council 2020. I want to say thank you to all the organizers, the people that you don't get to see that are behind the camera, that are going like this, hey, hurry up, you need to get out of there. Come on. If they're not doing this, they're sending it telepathically. But I think that we will all agree that it has been well worth it, and we hope that you do continue to baff. That's right. Faff. Oh, we continue to faff. My name is Alim Kamara, and today we have had Patrick, Basil, Angela, and Kieran. Ladies and gentlemen, even though you're at home, let us make a round of applause! Thank you all. Continue to look after each other all day long. Peace out.
Yeah, man. Love it.